I was recently talking with a client about how they're managing their leads. And I looked at the volume of human beings that have raised their hand and said, one, I'm interested in franchising, and two, I'm interested in your brand. And I looked through this database of names and I see stall out, stall out, stall out, stall out. And I park this over to the side and say, okay, what are the issues here and how are we going to address it? Then I go over to our own organization and I see leads. Candidate comes in, franchisor, and they say, we need services on how we're going to market our business. And I look at it and they come in and stall out, stall out, stall out. Now I take my own approach. And this is going to sound egotistical. I look at my leads and their lead into proposal into closed deal. And so I take these the three scenarios: one, client not closing deals; two, salesperson in my organization not closing deals; me closing deals. And I look at me and I say, what have I done in this process to win? And step one, I've always believed, give it away. Whether I'm at a cocktail event, or I'm doing a call with a franchisor, or I'm playing the long game. Like I had a call this morning with someone who I've never talked with before. We totally connected on a discussion, and that might not turn into something where we're working together in some form today. That might be 10 years down the line, but I know that I opened up the door because they got to hear my viewpoint on franchising and we were in complete alignment. And so my approach has always been to give it away. Secondly, my approach has always been set the expectation. So after call one, I say, I'm going to go do some homework and research on your business. And a week from now, I want to present a proposal back to you. And so I take that over to the franchise candidate side. And I think about call one. It's usually like, how much money do you have? Where do you want to grow? Why do you want to grow? And so automatically, to someone who's already uncomfortable, and same with a franchisor. When I get a franchisor, they're uncomfortable. That's why we're talking, because they want something greater than what they have. And so you take that mindset of the buyer. Oftentimes at call one, if that's not strong, the excitement meter goes down. And when the excitement meter goes down, it's hard to recover them. And so oftentimes that candidate goes like this, and they're labeled as cold and non-responsive, and franchisor puts them over into the category versus saying, okay, sales team, how are you making that person feel confident and comfortable in the process? And so I think about some of the best people that I've seen in franchise development. One guy comes into mind. He always bought into the franchise as a franchisee, which I thought was super valuable because he was always putting his money where his mouth was. And so that made the sales process even easier because he's able to say, like, look, I'm a franchisee too. I've actually invested my life savings into this business. Let me tell you what I went through in this process. And so I say that lead generation or lead nurturing is an art and a science. It truly is. And so if you look at the experience that the buyer has throughout the process, there are moments that can turn them off. Think about buying a car. And now, at the end of the day, you're going to buy a car. And at the end of the day, the hope is that this candidate is going to buy a franchise. But along the way, if the salesperson's like, can I help you? You're like, no, I'm just browsing. They're like, no, let's talk. Or they're overly pushy down in the sales process where eventually you're turned off and you don't want to work with that person. And so I think if we were to study the art of sales, take real estate, for instance, we're not idiots. We know that the buyer's agent and the seller's agent are very much aligned. They get paid based on this deal coming through. And so they're going to nurture the candidate throughout this process, show you homes, show you comps, give you the information, listen. And yeah, ultimately you're hopeful that the real estate agent, even though they are going to work together on getting this deal closed, you're hopeful that, there's a good person behind here. You hope that they can sleep at night, which is the same in franchising. But at the end of the day, they want to get the deal done. But they facilitate, they nurture. I think about the last real estate agent that I used when we bought a home. She's great. She made me feel good. She wasn't overly pushy. She took direction from me. She listened to my needs. She watched my reactions. We got gifts in the mail from her, which was the marketing side that aligned, which still blows my mind how many brands have awesome gifts, cookbooks, food, t-shirts, and they don't send it out to the candidate to show the culture. But I look at her sales process, I'm like, it's smart. And there's a reason she's selling to high net worth individuals, because she's mastered the art of nurturing candidates. And even when we didn't buy in month 1 or month 2 or month 3, she didn't stop. Checked in, sent a text message, hey, have you guys seen anything new that you want me to look into? But it was never overly salesy, even though at the end of the day, she has to be salesy. And that's always been my approach. So when you think back through your process, if you have people raising their hand and they're falling out of your funnel, if you're the CEO, you need to look at your salesperson. And it's almost like that scene in Wolf of Wall Street where he goes, sell me this pen. If you don't feel confident in the person that's selling on your behalf, then there's no way the candidate's going to feel confident in that process. So when you think through franchise lead management, it's first impressions, it's process, and it's also the philosophy of how you sell. And what are your morals and what are your ethics and what's your viewpoint on transparency? And so I encourage you, after we've already fought through where are my leads, then you need to look at your sales process and your sales people and say, do they make me feel comfortable? If the answer is no, that doesn't mean you have to get rid of them. That means you need to give them more support and training and almost nurture them as a salesperson. But you need to look at the person, because oftentimes brands don't sell brands, people do. And in franchise development, we're trying to convince someone to invest their life savings into a business that they don't have much control over. And so we have to make them feel comfortable in that process. So look back at your process, see what the gaps are, see if you feel comfortable, be a ghost lead, see how you get nurtured in your process. Most of the time, it'll give you tremendous insight into how it works.